How's that?
Now it's way better. Hello,
Okay.
how are you?
Okay, thank you. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. Long time from
Has
the
been.
last meeting, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I think the world has had a few things going on in it since the last meeting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Anyway, I'm looking
Uh,
forward to this.
Yeah, let's wait for rest of the group. Maybe someone else will show up. Doc is here, but I don't see the audio from you, Doc. The audio is connecting. All right, we'll see. How are you, Christian, in general?
Well, not so bad, actually.
Yeah,
Hot.
yeah, it is. I think it's everywhere. What's your location? Remind me.
Just outside of Oxford.
All right, okay.
So we're in the midst of what normally would be considered a good summer, except we would rather have it in July and August.
Yeah, today's crazy, like a 23 in Scotland. So it's like
We're up
Hello,
to 30.
it's me.
hello.
I
We're
was
up
your
to
last
30.
meeting. Yeah, can't believe it's been so long. It's nice to see you all again. I haven't done a lot of Newton stuff lately, but I do want to get back into it.
Okay. So Christian,
Yeah, I was just saying we're
yeah,
up to 31 degrees here.
31.
Woof.
31.
Wow.
Wait, Celsius or Fahrenheit? I'm presuming
Celsius.
Celsius.
Yep,
Celsius.
Yeah,
It's Celsius.
it's weird how my
Hello,
country
Chris.
doesn't measure.
Lauren, just wait. Hello, Chris. Hello, Morgan. Hello,
Good
Andrew.
morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Yeah. I wanna say good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Good morning.
Whatever.
Yes. Yes. I'm recording, by the way, guys, I'm recording the session because some our friends from Australia asked me because they have a 2 a.m.
Oh my.
At this moment, and they ask if we could record the session and later on publish somewhere. Yeah. So if you don't mind, I'm recording. So
All right.
be careful what you're saying. How are you guys?
I'm doing all right. Just started college.
Good.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks. It's not too bad so far. I'm still using my little iPod and everything, and my 11-and-a-half-year-old MacBook Pro.
Nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's wait a few minutes, maybe for people who wants to join after time. I don't have any specific topic. I just organized that because some people said could be good to meet after a year when the last meeting was. Yeah, times fly.
It does. Seems like it's been, I mean, that's just sort of a normal aging thing that it seems to fly faster and faster. But the last few years, especially, were bizarre.
Yeah,
They felt too slow and too fast at the time.
yeah, times fly.
There's been some research to say that people, since the lockdown, people have lost track of time and are very inaccurate at trying to guess anything that's happened in the last few years.
Wow.
Oof.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally not.
Of course, I started out with ADHD, so
I have ADHD too.
High five. Yeah, it's like that.
Personal comment. Hi, everybody. This is Doug from Nevada. The things that you're talking about being fast and slow, if you're watching a 100-yard dash from the starting line or the finish line, it's the same race, but it looks different.
Huh.
Yeah, that's true.
very good point. Yes.
I think that relates to how fast light travels. If I recall. And like how things from far away look slower.
Let's see if that helps.
I think all those factors interplay It's
Yeah.
what I group together into something called dimensional thinking. If you do any, if you look up on YouTube, any of the discussion, a lot of discussions from Neil deGrasse Tyson, he talks about that. Very, very fascinating topic.
Of course, when you start getting really old, dimensional thinking sounds more like thinking like dementia.
That is
dementia
that's
thinking.
very interesting
Yes.
observation. Yes, yes.
It's all a matter of perspective.
Mhm.
I think perspective and experience. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Experience change point of view. Ooh,
Yeah.
we have a very, very sophisticated subject.
We do, yes.
Yeah.
And experience overlaps with expectations too. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
All
yes.
right. So, Grant just joined us. Hello,
Ooh,
Grant. If you hear
hello,
us,
Grant.
I don't think so because he's still trying to connect via audio. And Mark, hello. And Parley and Justin. Oh, I didn't expect that many people. Nice. Very nice.
We've missed being together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I just checked recently. When did I record the previous one? And let me check. I'm gonna tell you the date. The previous one was 5th March 2022.
Hmm.
So over a year ago. Yeah.
It feels
Yeah.
longer.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Someone sent me, let me check the email. That was Chris. Chris,
I
you
just thought it
sent
would
me.
be a fun way to break open the meeting. That's all. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, yeah. Can you share the screen with the
No,
photo?
I give it to you. You share it.
Okay. I'm gonna open it first of all. And I'm gonna maybe make it a little bigger. Okay. I need to remind myself how to operate with the Zoom.
Zoom can be confusing.
Right. So Chris sent me that photo recently. Chris, can you say a few
Yeah.
words
So
about
I
this?
got this is my address at my mom's house. So I was obviously either still living there or close to it. And if you look at the date, it's from way back in 1995. And at that point, apparently, I bought a Newton from the United States, and you have to declare a value of them. And we declared the value of $100. So I guess at that point in time, they had already started to go down in or declared value. You know, this is a thing for customs, right? So people often play with this number and stuff like that. But I just thought the date was fun. My brother came across this the other day, and you know, I don't know if Eric ever exists still or still lives in Texas or whatever, but he's the one who I bought it from. So, and I still have this Newton. So, still,
Nice.
The same one.
yep, absolutely. the same.
Wow, that's nice. So now that Newton would be probably worth more than you declare.
I
if you
don't know.
decide to sell it.
Yeah, maybe, I guess, but I wouldn't do that.
Which Newton? Which Newton?
So this is
it?
one of the OMPs. So it's
Oh,
a
right,
version,
original.
version 1, and this is the one that I did some software development on,
Okay.
and I have a backup of it, also on a card. But you know, we never. Well, anyway, I don't want to take too much time. So go ahead, and whenever we have other questions, we can go ahead.
No, Chris, just tell, because you said you were the developer before, yeah?
Yes, that's right. I did a little bit of developing, and this was version 1, and I always wondered, like, can you replay a version 1 backup onto like a version 2 device? I don't think you can do that, correct?
What do you mean version 2 devices? Like
Well, like a
newer
eMate
Newton?
or something like that, or even the
Uh,
emulator. I don't think that works, right?
I don't think so.
No.
Because the different version of the Newton OS, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's,
Yeah.
I had asked this question a long time ago. And I think I got the same answer. And I just, it'd be fun to try to get all this back. That's all. So it doesn't matter.
Well,
Technically,
There's something, there's something
technically,
there is a
tech-
second emulator.
mhm.
Ooh.
does it run version 1?
I believe so.
Oh, cool.
You think about the, what was the name of the second emulator?
Leibniz.
Yeah,
Leibniz.
yeah.
Leibniz.
Uh-huh. So I believe you could try,
I don't know that. Okay.
but yeah, but I'm trying to figure out how to bring the backup to that emulator, because you can run the emulator technically, but bringing the backup can be tricky.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes. Good point.
Yeah, because there is no like there's no tools inside of that emulator like we have in Einstein. Am I correct, guys? Correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no way like to bring it.
I think you're right.
Yeah. Because on can we run older systems on Einstein or not? I don't think so.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't-
you can only run 2.1.
Hmm. That can be interesting. Oh, emulator in your browser. That's
Ooh.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Check the link, guys. Huh. That's cool.
Absolutely.
Right. So, Chris, could you tell us a little the story related with your development, with your developing something on Newton? What you did?
Yeah, so I had, it was a small computer company here in Montreal, and we had, we worked on a lot of 4GL language type of applications,
Okay.
which were often used by like insurance companies and like small banks and those kind of things. And we had thought of the Newton would be a good platform to be able to have insurance adjusters. This is, remember, this is in the 90s. So this is well before smartphones or any of these kind of things, or
Yeah.
real mobile type of things. So insurance adjusters, say you had an accident with your car or you wanted to get a quote for new insurance. At that time, adjusters, these were people who would be in their cars and drive around all day and look at accidents or look at the new buildings if your building had certain criteria to get insurance. You know, it wasn't like today where it's like a website and everything. It was very different back then. And I wrote a prototyping app, at least, that used in on the Newton that would collect all the information that an insurance adjuster would need to make a quote, and then at the end of the day would like download it all to his Mac and into our regular larger insurance program, and go from there. And so this thing worked. I mean, it wasn't, at the time that Newton was sort of like early adopter type of, it was an OMP, right? So it was original, it was older. But I mean, we achieved what we wanted to achieve. We were able to show the thing to the customer who was interested in it, and I don't think they ever really deployed it at large, but they bought it, so that was good.
Cool. That's actually very cool.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Chris, do you still have that app somewhere?
Well, it's on the backup. It's on this backup.
Oh,
right?
right. Okay.
So if I could ever get it off, I could look at it. Yeah.
All right.
So it runs on that. I mean, that Newton has it, and like the Newton itself, physical Newton, it runs on it. But I need to somehow get it off and put it somewhere else, right? So
I'm thinking how to do this.
So I have it's on a a card, and I think that I've asked before too. I don't think those cards, if you take a card from an OMP and you put it into an eMate, I think that doesn't work either.
No. No,
Yeah, so
I think different the different Newton OSs, they have a different format.
Yeah.
Maybe you could transfer,
Yeah. So that's the other thing that I
between
was
the
going to
Newtons,
do.
yeah, between
But
the
does,
Newtons.
I don't remember. Does the eMate have a IR link? I don't know if it does.
Yes.
Can you beam between 1 and 2?
But I'm not sure if you can beam applications. Definitely, you
Oh,
could beam
okay.
the nodes or something like this, like a common type of data. But I'm not sure you can beam the applications, especially when you have different version of the system.
Sure.
I'm not sure.
I'm sorry to ask all these questions. This is your meeting. I didn't want to interrupt.
No, guys. Like I said, I'm gonna repeat that because more people came. I don't have any, schedule or something. We just met to see each other and chat about random stuff. So
Okay.
no worries. If someone guys, if you have any topic you want to discuss or you want to bring, feel free.
Is there anything?
I'm just hosting. I'm just hosting the Zoom. That's it. I don't have any presentation or something. Actually, I'm count on you. I'm count on Mark. Maybe Mark could show us a new drawing, the beautiful icons. Maybe someone else have something. Frank, hello, Frank. Come on, Frank, show us something.
Hi, Frank.
Okay.
I did purchase the new, the eMate 300 memory that came out recently. This is really the golden age of hobbyists developing little things that help out. I mean, this is great stuff. So I really think this is a wonderful time to be a vintage computer enthusiast because everybody seems to be inventing all these great little things. Very handy.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Related to the package and trying to get it to a newer device, I did notice that there is a Beam package. I don't know if it supports 1.0. I haven't checked, but that does let you beam packages, and so therefore like apps and such.
Ooh.
So
Awesome.
there might be a way to bootstrap it just enough to get the data transferred.
Well, so I think you're in Vermont, right? Right next to me. I'm in Montreal. So maybe I'll come over to your place.
Yes.
We'll try it there.
Sounds good.
Let's do this. I wanna see
Yes.
that. I wanna see Chris app for insurance and try it on my Newton if it's possible, of course.
Yeah. Sure. I'll give you the demo copy. You'll see. It's just
Awesome.
just don't request quote. It won't work.
That will be no issue with the kind of, I don't know, copyrights or something like this
I
when you
don't know.
All right.
Good question.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Not to be distributed at large, I guess. I don't know.
That will be like 30 years ago, something like this.
Yeah.
25, yeah, something like this. Wow. Cool. No, because I thought about to maybe put it on Morgan's server.
Oh no, we won't do that.
Yeah.
I'll show you, but you can't put it around.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah, Grant just put the link to Jacob's website related to the extra memory for eMate, and he did before also the serial port, like an internal port for Newton 2000s. So I remember I bought a few of them when they were available, but I'm not sure if they are still available there. I'm gonna check.
The serial port adapter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it
Mhm.
it looks like it's out of stock right now, but I know I chatted with him a little while ago, and he's just building a waiting list, and he's going to do a batch of those again, probably before the end of it, before the end of the year.
All right. Okay.
How can one sign up?
I think you just contact him through his website, the androidawork.org.
Okay.
Or guys, you can send email via Newton Talk because he was recently very active with
Yeah,
the
that's right.
with the memory. Yeah, so he answered to people because that was kind of, he create kind of separate queue for us as our members of the group to order the memory. So yeah, you can find his emails on the Newton Talk. Yeah, and maybe that will be the good way to contact him. Yeah. But yeah, internal serial port for Newton 2000s. So that's nice option to have.
Talking about buying stuff like this is the reason why I turned in Pavel Vitam. I just really wanted to thank you because your cable made working with the Newton after like more than 20 years a reality. So
All
that was
right.
just awesome that worked.
So the USB cable.
Yeah.
That's great. I'm happy that
It's
the cable's working fine.
Yeah.
Yay.
So that's good. That's good. I need to also order from my Chinese friend a few more because people recently asked me if I have more.
exactly. There's definitely a market, I would say.
I mean, it's not about, I'm just trying to, cover costs of transport or something and contacting with the guy. But I think it's a easiest way to connect Newton to the modern computer. We still have NCX on Macs, still working even with the new Mac OS. So why not? Why not? Yeah. I wasn't super successful with Windows because I managed to connect between original NCU, I think, but I couldn't finish, for example, backup procedure because there was kind of error. So serial communication was good, but I believe the new Windows they generate kind of problem for the old version of the software. Yeah. So my only success was to connect via NCU, but personally I'm use Newton, the tiny small application, to just install the packages because this is the primary use. Yeah, on macOS. But what else?
How's the software called? Because I'm pretty new 10. So
Newton, NEWTEN.
okay.
You can find that on Una server. So this is really nice application. Maybe I'm gonna show you quickly the interface. Yeah, this is something like this. You can just, when you connect USB cable, you will see that cable on the list, and basically you can install the packages like a one button, and also you can download ROM if you wanna have your personal ROM for your Einstein emulator. So you can download from any Newton, any ROM with the cable, and you can use it with the Einstein later on. So it's like that. Very, very nice app. I like it. What I manage
When you're
also.
when you're recording this session, does it copy the link somewhere? Like, how do you get the links from a recorded session?
Okay,
because
so
these are all really handy.
all right, okay. So I'm recording and also I'm just editing later. I'm trying not to. So this is why I put the warning, be careful what you say, because I don't want to spend like a few hours to, to picking up some things to cut out. And I'm putting that on my YouTube channel. I'm going to give you in a second on a chat the address.
And all these links will be on there because this is really valuable.
The links to from the chat.
Yeah, correct.
You mean, yeah, okay. So I'm gonna try to embed them somehow.
Well, thank you, because this is super valuable. Everybody knows everything. It's great.
The knowledge, it fills us.
If you can't embed the links in the video, or if it's too much fuss for your editing system, you can also put them in the video descriptor on YouTube.
Probably I will do like that because that will be the easiest
much
way.
easier.
Yeah. I will just copy the.
And then if you want to, you can timestamp them. So you say, like at 7 minutes, 30 seconds, this link. And, if you really want to be fussy,
precise. Okay, I will
Yes.
try. I will try.
But you don't have to. I mean, we'll find it. We'll watch the video. We'll find it all. But
Oh,
it's a way of doing it.
I will do it. No worries. I'm trying
I don't want
to
to interrupt the flow here, but I'm a newbie and I have this. This is the cable I'm looking. I don't currently have the laptop that has USB-A, but so I know I need to get a driver for this Ugreen cable. Is that correct?
So I'm gonna give you in a second a link
Yep.
to my website when I describe the best option for getting the cables. Technically, you could get a driver for that cable, but it's
Right.
better to spend a few pounds or a few dollars, depend where you are, and buy the one with the proper FTDI cable. Because in this case, you don't need any drivers. You just plug in and you just run, because macOS, for example, will recognize without any additional drivers. I'm advising that way because usually with the drivers, you can stuck with some issues. I've tested a lot of cables. I spent a lot of money unnecessarily. I waste a lot of money actually to test different cables with different chipsets, and when I end up with a mess in my Mac OS because I installed too many drivers. And
Yeah.
at the end,
I second that. It's
yeah,
absolutely correct.
and that was crazy because I end up even that the original FTDI cable, which don't need additional drivers, stop working because of this. Because macOS start getting crazy. Yeah.
Yep,
The
there's
other
three
option
kinds
I
of-
have is an old PC. It's a Farallon, and I notice there's like a model 895 is the model of Farallon card. I can't see what model this is, but it does say Etherwave, and so if it's a Farallon Etherwave PCMCI card and I have the dongle, should that also be able to, I should be able to connect that way?
You can test it. I'm not sure. Maybe Grant, maybe you can
Yeah.
say something more about this, because I think you have that exactly
Yeah,
that card.
that's what I've been using. Let me just double check my card.
Okay.
This is.
Oh, yeah.
It's, yeah.
Yep, exactly.
That's the same card.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And I've got the same dongle, that Etherwave dongle, and that's what I use. I actually use that to connect directly to my Mac.
The thing is, I need to get some software onto the eMate, right? Onto the
yes.
And now that's what I'm struggling with, is how do I get stuff on there?
Yes. So
so I probably need maybe a memory card or something would be the easiest way to do that, right?
No.
How do I get stuff on there then?
Cable. The cable is
so we're back to this thing.
Yes,
and maybe I just need to get a different one. I thought I ordered this from some link from the Apple Newton fan website, your website, but this was a couple of years ago, so I kind of lost momentum. So I'm kind of reinventing it, I guess.
Yeah, and those Ugreen cables, because they have different chipset compatibility, it's like there's one cable that works, and the other ones look exactly the same, but they don't work. And
right.
I just put the link on the chat. I just put the link to my website when I describe exactly what kind of type chipset you need to have a just plug and play. That's it. Yeah.
And unfortunately, Ugreen discontinued the one that works for us.
But if you find any other with that particular chipset, and the chipset is FTDI, original FTDI FT232R or RL, when you get any cable with that chipset inside, that cable will work. Yeah.
Pavel,
yeah.
Please, I mean, you need to take that statement with care, because I read this on your blog, and I also spent half a fortune to source from different usual Alibaba whatever sources, and none of them worked. Yours did.
Yeah, the Alibaba, you got to be careful, because they will announce I've been caught with this too. They usually put prolific chipsets in their FTDIs.
That's
so you
correct.
have to be very careful. The
That's
prolific
correct.
chipset is a disaster. Don't even waste your time with that.
So once again, that must be original FTDI. You cannot use any clone, and with that must be even particular number, because I'm gonna show you one cable. Give me a second.
So while he's doing that, the FTDI, the reason why it costs more is because the FTDI people are hawks in terms of lawyers, and they have spent a lot of money protecting their chipset, and will go after everybody who clones it. So
Right.
it costs more, but it definitely 100% works, as opposed to prolific, which is very, very inexpensive, but will not work.
All right. I'm gonna show you. I'm not sure if you see that cable. It's very similar, almost exactly the same like the one I discover it's working and I order to produce that. But this one have a completely different chipset. So you can find even that kind of cable on Alibaba or AliExpress or something, and they will not work because instead of number, for example, FT232R, which is the original one, they have a FT231X. So slightly different number, but completely will not work because inside it's completely different chipset, and then you will struggle with the drivers and a lot of problems. So my advice, just try to check that link I sent on chat. And there on that website, on my website also is, maybe I'm gonna share once again. It's not advert, guys. I'm just trying to show you. Right. So the cables on that website, I just put the cables, they are actually working, which was the cable from Ugreen, that cable here, but this cable is discontinued, so nobody produce it, and the chipset inside must be FTDI FT232R. If you have a different one inside, without additional drivers, will not work.
Yeah, but then I confirm that they put this number, but they don't put the chip, basically, a lot of times.
I know. Additional option, I found something like this, guys. I'm not sure if you see, because I'm gonna try to make it bigger. Digitus. It's a kind of dongle like a USB to RS232. The Digitus. That cable. That adapter is working also because I tested without the drivers, because have the same proper chipset inside. Yeah. On that website, I put the link to Amazon. I'm gonna check if it's still working. Yes, but it's currently available, so I need to figure out how to do it. But the Amazon is really good stuff to check it, but you need to just put the proper description when you're asking. FTDI RL232R. So even if you put proper description, for example, on Amazon, you have a lot of cables, they will never work. Yeah. And don't buy them. A lot of cables, they will never work because they
most of them, I find the prolific ones have that transparent. If you look at the links, if you see the ones there that have like this translucent plastic, that's not the only way to tell, but often the clones use this.
Yeah.
Like what do they call those? iMac, the color iMac type of greeny blue plastic.
Oh, Bondi blue?
Bondi blue, yeah, those ones.
Yeah.
Try to avoid those ones. Those ones for sure are clones that say that they're FTDI, but they're not. They're prolific, and you're just going to waste your time and your money.
I have one. I learned it the hard way.
And that's what I wanted to say. Like, could somebody have told me like a year ago?
Yeah.
That's why this meeting is so valuable. You see, you learn all this stuff. It's just amazing.
Even
Everybody
guys, if you look at that page I'm displaying here, look, it's the same Digitus, the same shape of the device, but in the description you have completely different chipset. So they mixing the chipset. So be careful. Don't click like that. Always check if because that PL2303 GT chipset will not work without any drivers.
Yeah.
But on the bottom, we have the proper one here. I'm gonna try to click, and this one will work because this one I think have proper one inside, but I'm trying to find in the description the confirmation.
At the top it does say at the top, but it doesn't say here.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Here I have a confirmation. This is the proper one. You last purchased this item 2 years ago. Yeah. And exactly this model is working. So I'm gonna put that on the chat also if someone is interested. Obviously, you need serial cable to Newton, but Andrew, I can imagine you have this one. Yeah. So if you find exactly this one on Amazon, it's £10. So that will work, yeah, for you, yeah. So I just put that link. Chris, if you plug in your cable and get a USB, yeah, that's a prolific. Yes, yeah, all prolifics they are like a clones, cheap clones, and they do not work totally.
And not only do they not work for Newtons, they don't work for anything else. So say you're trying to use a serial console for something else, some other application, it doesn't work for that either. So like don't waste your time.
Yeah, money. Yeah. So chipset must be RL232R or RL232RL, and there was another one. Let me check my cable actually, because my used a little different one. Give me a second. Okay, system information, USB. And share. Right. So the another one, which is in my cable, I'm sharing with people, is FT231X, and this one also is working without the drivers. But all of them are original FTDI. 231X. I'm gonna put that too on the chat. Yeah. So if you find any adapter or cable with that chipsets, 99% will work. Yeah.
I wonder how much worse this situation has gotten with the chip supply shortage, because clearly industries were all constrained on chips, and if they had tons of cloned chips that were manufactured that really aren't useful, they're probably just trying to unload them, and access to the originals is probably a lot more expensive.
To be fair, I found FTDIs to be available whenever you needed them. Like whoever this company is, like they're working very hard to make sure that their stuff is not only protected but available. So I ordered one during the pandemic and got it right away. So
nice.
Whatever
That's
company, FTDI is, expensiver. They're a little bit more expensive cables, but they work. And like I told you, these guys are hawks. If you go search for their legal team, I mean, they're all over the place, killing all the clones and everything like that. But it's worth it because we get something that actually works.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Just one thing. You've listed RL232R and then RL321X, or is it 231?
Yes.
Or is it 231?
Yes, give me a second because I've made mistake. Sorry.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. Give me a second.
I thought I heard you say 231, but then it says 321. Okay.
Yeah, mistype. Give me a second. I'm gonna confirm because I'm confusing myself. It's
You're
2,
doing
3.
a tough job. You're trying to do two things at once.
Yeah, can I edit that? No, I'm gonna delete that because this is misleading. So I'm gonna put once again RL232R and RL231X.
Thank you.
Now I put that the proper one. Sorry.
Thank you.
And I think the one with the RL at the end. I don't remember if that's. I need to check if that was RL or RT. I think that was RT. Give me a second. I'm gonna confirm that entry. Okay. RL232 RT. No, RL FT232 RL. Okay.
Thanks.
I'm gonna put that also. FT232 RL. Something like this.
Because I found one that had that chipset with the RL at the end.
Guys, I've made another mistake. Oh my God. Okay, let me clarify. I'm gonna delete once again what I put because I'm walking backward today. So FT232R, FT232RL, and FT231X. The third version now on the chat is correct one. Sorry, guys. 100% correct now. So I just give you three type, but they all are original FTDI chipsets, and this is our goal, to have an original one, because those one don't need any drivers. They will work just like that. So I just plug in my cable, and I'm going to show you once again how it looks like.
I guess you could say these ones don't drive you crazy. Get it?
I spent a lot of time to discover which one will work and a lot of money.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
I'm technician. I'm audiovisual technician, so I love it. I'm spending too much money on not necessary cables. So, for example, when you open NCX and you go into preferences and you want to pick up the cable, looks like very crazy, like a USB serial with kind of I think it's internal number of the chipset or something. But this one is proper, yeah. And the second thing, when you open Newton with the cable connected, you're getting something like this, Newt USB, and it's working.
Nice.
So yeah, the Newton even recognizes as like a Newt USB, so that's good. Okay. So, and you just buy that kind of cable, and then you can use it. You said something about memory cards. I'm not super technical to explain that, but so maybe someone else can explain. I don't know, maybe Grant or Frank, you could explain what's the problem with the memory cards for Newton and why we cannot transfer the data from, for example, from old PCMCI computers. Wanna fancy to explain that to Andrew? Frank, we don't hear you. Microphone.
Muted.
Yeah. The question.
I read quite a bit about this, and like the first generation, from what I understood of the memory cards, did not contain a controller, but the OS system served as a controller. And right after they were introduced, they started to produce chips that contained the controller. And that's the usual ones you find nowadays. That's at least what I understood.
But to the best of my knowledge, the PCMCIA format is just kind of a form factor. There are basically two different types of cards, and only one will fit, will be recognized by Newton OS.
And it's about, I think it's about file system, because Newton don't have any, let's say, file system like FAT or
That's
any.
precisely this
Yeah.
controller problem.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
the
yeah.
controller, well, provides a logic for a file system
Mhm.
on the basically on the chip. And the ones used for the Newton do not provide this, but the Newton OS needs to provide this.
Yeah.
And that's
So
why it's not readable. Like even if you have a PCMCIA card reader, you can put it in there, but
yeah.
just
So the
won't work.
cards basically can be only formatted and used on Newtons. You cannot transfer between computers or something. Between Newtons, yes, but not between computer and the Newton. Yeah.
Well, a long time ago, David, aka Mr. The guy who made the eMate upgrades and so on, a long time ago, like 10 years ago, he mentioned in Newton talk that he was able to copy a Newton card using Unix. However, he didn't, but it seems to be possible to copy it bit by bit.
Actually, guys, the newest Einstein can do it. You can, I think Matthias show us on the previous meeting. I'm not sure because that was over a year ago, but I believe if you ask on Newton Talk and you ask Matthias, he will tell you how to dump the content of the card connected to Newton, and then you can load up the content to Einstein, because Matthias did that kind of tool from the newest version of Einstein. So it's possible to connect Newton to computer, dump the card, physical card with the applications, whatever what is there, and then open that image inside of Einstein. So this is what I know it's possible. Yeah. I think Matthias working on the opposite way, how to install something on Einstein, create the image of the memory card, and then transfer that on Newton and save on the physical card. Yeah, but I'm not sure what's the progress of this. Yeah, but it's not easy way. Yeah, Andrew, the easiest way to install is just use the cable and connect to the computer, load up everything what you have and what you want. Grant,
I wonder. I've never really thought about this until this point. Well, first of all, I'll have to reach out to PCB Man and see if he remembers how under Unix he was able to image a card, because I've got an old Dell PC card laptop sitting behind me running OpenBSD that I would love to give that a try on. But I've never really thought about the fact that with the 2100, well, really the 2000 series, with Paul Guyot's PC, what was it, compact flash card drivers, I wonder whether you could
ATA
save
drivers.
some. Yeah,
was,
exactly, the ATA drivers, whether he could, whether one could, save content to a PC card, and add a compact flash card, import that image, image that, and run the ATA drivers in Einstein to then load from an image that you created of the compact flash card. It sounds very roundabout, but
once again, from what I know, will still not work on the computer because the driver allows you to use the not flash cards, but the ATA cards, because they have a different chipsets inside, different organization of the memory. I don't know the details, but once again, if you format that card on Newton, you still don't have any file system. And by this, even if you take that card from Newton and you put to the laptop, you still cannot read anything because laptop will do not recognize the card contain any data that ask you to reformat the card, because card will be like a blank. Yeah. So yeah, the way to do this could be to write the driver on PC to work with the memory, but I think at this point it's not possible. At least
Right.
we need some programmer who know the format for that kind of memory cards, yeah, and could maybe figure out kind of application working with this. That would be great, actually, yeah, to have ability to put the flash card to old laptop, transfer the applications, notes, everything, and then to Newton, yeah. But I don't think it's possible at this moment.
Yeah,
Well,
I think
it's possible, but it will take a really long time. And the question is, whatever would you do with it? I mean, why do you need it?
Yeah, we have a USB cable. Yay!
yes,
But actually, I was really astonished because I even got an old Mac who has like a PCMCIA slots, plus the serial port, and even with the original equipment, maybe the serial port is just malfunctioning. I don't know, but I didn't get it to work. And your USB cable again works, but really with the original MacBook from this time, with the serial cable that came with the MacBook and everything, I couldn't get a connection.
Really?
Well, there are cables and cables. The Newton serial cable is, although it looks exactly identical to a modem cable or an Apple printer cable, it is not. The wiring is different. So you absolutely have to use a Newton type serial cable, otherwise it wouldn't work.
Okay, that can be the reason, of course. Then, all right.
And there are also two versions of the Newton connection utilities for macOS. One is for the earlier message pads, and one is for the newer message pads, if I remember correctly. So
I think the old one was called Newton backup utilities. Newton connection utilities.
I think so.
Newton connection utilities used solely for OS 2.1.
That's correct.
Correct.
That's correct. And they do not work each other.
Right.
Yeah, but I have I tried with the Newton connection utilities. I got them installed, and somehow the system sees that something is going on, but couldn't establish a connection. So looks like the cable, of course. Then
maybe
so,
cable.
Frank, thank you.
Maybe cable, or actually the configuration of the ports, because also on the old Macs we have local talk, Newton talk.
Yeah, I read about this, and you need to switch that off.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I really, in the end, I'm not an expert, so I always take the let's say the combinatorial approach. I just try everything,
and didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's certainly possible to have serial port issues on an older Mac that wouldn't necessarily be, noticeable enough.
I have a question. So just to clarify, Newton connection utility is for like a 2.1 newtons, while New 10 is for older ones?
Newton connection utilities is for OS 2.0 and above. Newton connection kit and the Newton backup utility are for Newton OS 1. New 10 only works on it's for OS 10 Max, but now I'm not sure if it connects to one like Newton OS 1 devices or 2 devices only.
May I jump in for a second?
I have a 2.0 Newton and a 1.0 in my collection. 1.0 is Newton, which is, I believe, a 100, has screen issues.
Yeah, this is a standard problem.
Yeah. I'm not sure about New 10, if that can work with the older Newtons. I just use eMate and Newton 2000 because I'm not using the lower Newtons anymore, basically. But like Grant said, the Newton backup utility and the connection kit and connection utilities, they working on only on Classic, on Mac Classic.
I think, Pavel, I think you're mistaken. The Newton connection kit is not a transfer program in the first place. This is the developing environment you usually use for, or you used to use for writing apps. It's
Right.
Newton script IDE. You can transfer packages with the NTK too, but that's not its primary purpose. This is a development environment. Whereas
Okay.
Newton connection utilities and Newton backup utilities are for kind of exchanging your data with Newton and PC or Mac.
Got it.
And the NTK actually is working with OS 2.x operating systems because I'm doing this all the time.
Grant just put the bunch of links on the chat, guys. So just explore that and pick up the right software for yourself.
Yeah,
Thank you, Grant.
Yeah, Frank, the new connection kit actually does notes transfer and stuff too. It's actually the consumer thing. It's not a developer only package.
I'm inclined to think that you are working on a Mac, aren't you?
Yes.
I am.
Yeah, I'm working on a PC, and on a PC it doesn't do these things.
Oh, that's interesting.
Is that the Newton Toolkit NTK or the Newton Connection Kit, which is... I thought
right,
Newton
yeah.
Connection Kit was available for Windows as well, but I don't remember. But yeah, the naming is very confusing because they have the Newton Toolkit, which is for developers, and then the Connection Kit.
Yeah, Toolkit's definitely the developer environment.
Anyway, guys, all software is available on Morgan's server, so yeah, you can test it.
Yeah, and that time in the with the Newton software was always a little sneaky because it was almost like they were coming out with a new package for consumers to transfer data. They're still trying to figure out how the hell to do it and do it reliably. And that's why we've got all of these, even just from Apple, never mind the third-party stuff. There was so many different packages and software solutions and boxed software that you could buy at the store that did basically the same thing, but it gets really confusing sometimes. It's almost refreshing now when we've got modern operating systems and we know that one or two things are all you can use. Just going back to New 10 for a second, it's actually just it's like an application wrapper around a thing called Unix NPI, which is it's a Unix-based framework for doing transfer from Newton to desktop platforms. Just reading through some of the basic information about that, it sounds like it's compatible with Newton OS 1 and 2, at least at the Unix level. Again, I don't know if New 10 supports both versions of the OS or not, but it sounds like it has the potential to do that.
All right.
And I just did a little more poking around on UNNA, and it appears that Newton Connection Kit was available for Mac and Windows. I can't remember if Newton Backup Utilities was available for Windows. And then, of course, the Newton Toolkit was available for both Windows and Mac.
Yeah, I think I was wrong a minute ago. I think the Newton Toolkit is the thing you use to write apps, and the Newton Connection Kit, I think, used to be the very first app at all for transferring data between Newton and a PC or Mac. And this was really good, and I really almost cried when they discontinued it, because it actually allowed transferring single apps and images and drawings and so on, which Newton Connection Utilities no longer allows.
Yep. And actually, one other thing, jumping back further, that Unix NPI reminded me of, that one of the reasons that PCBman probably was able to image Newton PCMCIA cards under Unix is that under Unix, and this probably is still true in some way under macOS, but I've never really tried. At least the new macOS 10, that you can access the raw devices and read bits from them. So you don't actually have to try to mount it as a file system. You can literally just say, read all of the bits from this PCMCIA raw device and store it as a text file. So you don't really have to worry about the file system at all. You might be able to then, use that as a flash image for Einstein to read, because it's just a file full of bits. But I still recall that there were some issues with how the controllers would read those bits back, even in the raw format, that maybe didn't work right. But I'll definitely have to start poking at that.
I went to pick up my Siemens Newton. So
Nice.
I'm gonna try to connect this one to the dongle cable. I mean, to the USB cable, and I'm gonna check if Newton can read it. I need some power cable. I hope the Newton will start. Haha. We'll see. I found something else. Mousepad.
That's a nice mouse pad.
Okay. So Siemens not working. Shame. I'm gonna go and try something different.
Question maybe in the meantime to those who have maybe already solved that. I realized that there is obviously, and that's also documented, a bug with the calendar system, which doesn't allow you to access today's date. But I read there is some fix, and I read about the fix, and that was simply too technical for me. How difficult is it to update, to access the calendar in the correct way?
Just installing kind of a package. There is a website, it's www.40hz, something like that. So you should search for Eckhart Koppen, that's his website. And he wrote an operating system patch that can simply be installed like a normal package. And then this problem is gone. The only remaining problem is that, like, if you reset the machine, it will fall back to some date in August of the same year, but that's a minor problem.
Yes, and it does depend on which device you're using. I don't recall if he ever made a patch for eMate. Did he?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did. Okay. So yeah, he made a patch that works for the 2000-2100 and then one for the eMate.
Yeah.
But if you have any earlier devices, like the 130, 120, 110.
The website's name is 40hz.org or something.
Yeah, it's already in the chat.
Hertz.
Thank you very much, Grant. Thanks for sharing the link.
40hz.org. Grant put that on the chat. Yeah.
Yes.
And then if you have an earlier device, Avi Drisman wrote a utility that can run on those earlier devices that will sort of fix the date on the fly, just in software. It's not a firmware update. Can't remember what it's called. I think it's actually just called like fixed date.
The problem with this works just fine. The problem is that if you hard reset your Newton, it will be gone. You have to install it again, whereas the 2.1 version from Eckhart is an operating system patch that will just remain.
Okay. Yeah, but my thing was, I read somewhere, which translated to me basically to, if you do anything wrong, you fry your device. So, but Frank, you say that is not the case.
Well, it's really, really difficult to fry a Newton by doing anything wrong, in my opinion. But
yeah,
all kinds of weird things will happen, because if you try to set a date that is beyond, I think, around about mid-January 2010, the Newton will do all kinds of weird things, because, for example, the calendar will run amok and so on. You can get that back again by simply hard resetting the Newton, but you cannot really use many things.
Yeah, I think Eckhart left that text in there just kind of like as a cover your ass situation, because the early versions of when he was still testing that patch, there was the potential of catastrophic failure more often because he was trying something that hadn't been done before. The current patches that he has on his site are super solid. I've applied them to, I don't know, probably a dozen of my 2100s and eMates, and everything's gone super smoothly. So
yeah, and thank you very much. You're giving me all the courage to try out now.
It's all about courage. We've stuck with these devices for so long, we must be either stupid or brave, right?
Using a Newton is like getting old. It's not for wimps.
In my opinion, the people who were stupid were the people at Apple who programmed this, because, I mean, how can you possibly think that no one will use these devices after 2010? Nobody in his right mind would do this these days, at least nobody who is worth his money.
Well, there was a time where people still thought like 625, 24 megabytes, whatever of RAM would be sufficient. So
actually, that was one guy. not very smart.
Well,
but very rich. Come on.
Rich is not smart.
Said that the world's they wouldn't need more than 3 computers at most.
Well, and there was some discussion a while ago, and said there might be actually a year 2026 bug related to the way he fixed the year 2010 bug. So
Oh no.
there's we might be running into the same situation a couple years down the road. I'll post a link to some info that I got that's in the glossary about that. But he was talking about, who knows if it'll be an issue or not, but it's something to keep our wits about us about.
Well, Eckhart is still with us. I'm pretty sure he will fix that too.
Yeah, we can all poke and prod him. He's pretty responsive when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and we now have Einstein that really lets us explore what exactly is happening when we're applying patches like that. And I know that update has essentially been rolled into Einstein's point. You don't even have to apply the patch. So yeah, we've got many more options now than we did back when Eckert figured all of that out for the first time. And even like the Macintosh computers of that era, I think are only good till 2038 or something, in terms of their date handling. So it's a common problem.
Well, even now, some System 7 and OS 8 Macs, you can't set the date, past 2005 or something like that. And people have written patches and control panels to get past that issue. And it's like, okay, I can't even set the proper date on here. I don't even care if it resets, but I'm hitting the button. Why doesn't it go to the next number?
Yeah.
Built-in
obsolescence,
right?
Yes. And actually, speaking of dates and calendars on Newtons at this point, one of the things I ran into years ago, I have to admit, I don't use my Newton daily anymore like I did until like 2017 or 2018. But time zones, daylight saving time has changed since then, at least here in the US. But there is actually an excellent package. I'm digging right now to try to find it, that lets you customize the time zones in Newton OS 2, or at least 2.1. So I use that, and that's what I used at the time. It's just nice and easy. You go in, you set what the new start and end dates are for various time zones, and it works perfectly.
Definitely need that.
Morgan, when you find that package, will be very interesting, because I tried to find it and I couldn't locate it. I don't remember the name of the package.
Yeah, I think it was written by Software Bureau Mueller.
Okay.
It might not be on UNNA, but I think it's in the mirrors, so that's where I'm digging right now.
All right. Okay. Yeah, because I try to locate it, because my Newton's all the time showing 1 hour less, or I don't know how to say it,
Yes.
than I have a current time here. It's just it's not a big problem. But...
Yeah, so it looks like I do have Software Bureau Mueller on the mirrors of UNNA, and it is there. So I'll be posting a link in just a second here.
Awesome.
It's just called Daylight Savings.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. And
I'm posting a link that has some background information about that as well. And how to set up like a net time thing, so your clock is always in sync as well.
Whoa.
Nice. and actually, I love most of the packages from Software Bureau Mueller because they also wrote SBM utilities.
Yeah.
Which let you do, well, you can like manage backups, move backups. You can even like copy cards. So when I was using my Newton heavily, and actually I'll link to SBM utilities because that was also on the mirrors.
Oh, they're brilliant.
What I do for that, or what I did for that for backups, was that I would basically have rotating backup cards. So I would back up my backup card with SBM utilities. So if my backup card got corrupted for some reason, I could at least go back to the other backup card and go back one backup. And you also can manage what backups are on there. So you can sort of say, oh, well, I filled up this backup card with backups. I'll go delete the oldest backup that's on there, sort of like Time Machine does these days under Mac OS.
Nice.
I just had to do it all
pretty
manually.
brilliant.
Yeah.
When we talk about backups, can I ask you guys something? Because I remember there was a way that on the Mac Classic with the NCU, I believe, there was a way to get inside of the structure and physically copy. Once again, imagine I launched I'm not sure if that was NCU or any different for the classic Mac, but I remember that I managed some time ago do something like this. I back up content of my Newton on the old Mac, and then I was able to dig into the like a file and folder structure from the backup and extract particular package with the application or something. Do you remember something about this? How to extract the package from the backup, or not? Is it possible or not, or is it just my imagination? Did you try on the classic Mac that kind of operation?
I don't remember. I feel like there was one available, but I really don't remember. Yeah, that was something that I mostly did on the Newton itself using SBM utilities because it could do similar things.
Just make a copy, because I need to just make a copy of my existing package on Newton, and I wish to extract that and make a copy on the computer because I don't have that package anywhere. I wish to have some. I'm trying to figure out how to do it. Yeah, but it's fine. That's just that was just off topic. Yeah. Anyone fancy to see programmer for the ROM for Newton 2000 and 2100? I'm gonna try to launch the second camera. Do you see my screen, guys?
Yes.
Sharing, yeah?
Yep.
Right. So this is the device I get from Matthias. It's a Arduino Duo, or whatever, how to read it. So it's Arduino with kind of special board with a socket for the RAM board. You can take out the board from here. And this one is actually made by, the project was made by Matthias, and I managed to order a few of them. Maybe that side will be better. So basically it's a replacement for the ROM for Newton 2000s. By using this fancy device, you can reprogram the ROM, or you can add additional software to the ROM. And by this, you don't need to load up that particular packages to the fresh Newton, because after you replace that ROM board in your Newton, you have it just like that. After even you wipe out the memory, that packages uploaded to the ROM, to the reprogrammable ROM, they are just like that, yeah. So I spent a lot of time to test it, because it's not that super cool like it sounds, because some packages cause the problem and kind of memory conflicts, etc., etc. And at this moment, I'm just testing a lot of applications, packages, if they working with that kind of method of, holding them, because some applications, they working just like that. They show up in the extras and you can just launch the application and everything's fine. And they are like, I'm giving them a green light. The orange light is like applications, they show up in the extracts, but after you're trying to tap on them, kind of random errors coming and apps not working or working partially. And also some of them, even if I load up to that ROM board, they never show up in the extras, and there is no sign that they are in the ROM board. I'm just guessing, because I'm not programmer. I know nothing about the system. I'm just guessing that must be kind of additional things happened after you upload the package on Newton, and the Newton OS need to do something with this to activate it. But because the package is in a ROM board, there is no way to write additional information to the ROM, and then the application just do not show up.
Maybe there is something I can contribute today, but I do not recall the website's name. When immediately after this board came out, you kind of rigged up a website where people would talk about it. Do you recall that? Or someone else did? David was part of it, and Matthias, and myself, and I think Victor, and some other people.
So I think that was our Discord channel. I created the Discord channel related to that project. Yeah.
Can you open that thing? Because there are two videos I made a long time ago that might be quite nice to see here. If it's still available.
Give me a second. I'm gonna try to find it and launch it. But you need to guide me where it was, because I remember there was a plenty of discussion.
Yeah, it was, there was some links section or something. I don't really recall that.
Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna share my screen with the Discord channel. Okay, so this is the Discord channel I create, Newton OS New ROM.
Yeah, go to videos, please.
Videos. Okay, yay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think the first two are quite interesting.
So I'm gonna copy the links and I'm gonna put in a Zoom. Give me a second. How to bring the chat? Okay, I need to stop. No, I can put here. Okay, so I'm gonna put that links, guys, on a chat. So this is the first video that Frank did, and the second one is here. Give me a second. Maybe I'm gonna. I will be able to play it. Actually, give me a sec. Mm-mm.
And while you're looking for that, one of the things that could be really useful for this is obviously pre-installing or pre-updating things like daylight savings time. I used to have a whole bunch of packages that I installed as sort of my base system that removed the like remote update functionality in Newton OS, because obviously that phone number is not connected to Apple anymore and I don't run a modem. And there are various packages for fixing bugs in the preferences and various other places. So being able to have, even if they're just sort of redeveloped, have those
I try to figure
prepared
out.
so that a fresh install is
Yeah.
good to go.
Yeah, I try to, and I really counted that I will be able to, for example, put on that ROM the NIE drivers. So everything what you need to make Newton work with the network, and maybe drivers for the Wi-Fi cards. But unfortunately, NIE will not work. I did kind of tests. I'm gonna show you maybe once again. I did kind of tests. And for example, the drivers for some network cards are not working. ATA support driver for the ATA cards also is not working, but Avis backdrop working, dashboard working really nice. So I can program the ROM with the dashboard and Avis background. What else working? GPS map and GPS driver for the GPS external card is working. Some minor like buttons, like a I/O button or connection button for the standards working. Net time is working. So could be. What else? Interesting. Reboot application, very useful. Sometimes it's working. Yeah, so this is the bank one. This is not. Yeah, and basically this is the list I have here that definitely is working. Yeah, everything on red I have marked here. So for example, internet enabler, internet setup, it's not working. The Wi-Fi card drivers completely nothing.
May I jump in for a second?
Yeah, sure.
If something does not work internet-wise, you should try to remove the ATA support from Paul. I've had it a couple of times that I wouldn't be able to connect until this package was gone.
All right. So it's a kind of problem with this, that if you have the driver.
I haven't a clue what causes this, but just my experience is that you are better off if you do not have this package unless you really need it.
Okay. So that's good thing to test it, yeah.
And I do highly suggest that if you are going to run packages like any of the internet packages or Wi-Fi drivers or the ATA support, that you have a package freezing utility installed so that you can freeze any packages that you're not using, because those are such memory hungry packages that it's very helpful to only run what you need when you need it.
Okay. Which package have that option to freeze? That was extras?
SBM utilities
there's
have
a
it.
few.
Yeah,
Yep.
I think there's a separate package. It's called freeze utils or something like that that does exactly that.
I just posted a link from the Newton FAQ.
I just want to say, Grant, you're awesome. You just deliver the data.
This is what I do.
Nice.
Yes, but how
Our-
do you read our minds so that you're all ready to post the answer when we're still asking the
Oh,
question?
Yeah.
I just type fast.
Wow.
That's good. Okay, so that's extras, yeah, by Brian Salser, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I used this one, yeah. But unfortunately, extras is not working as a package in the ROM.
Oh.
So must be installed in the normal memory, yeah. The good thing with that ROM option is that when you put that application on the ROM, on that reprogrammable ROM, that package don't take memory from the Newton, so you have even more space, yeah. And on the ROM board, you have 8 megabytes of memory to upload potentially any package on this, yeah. So a lot of packages could be there, yeah. Matthias told me that it's a kind of if the apps or package have a kind of memory issue that not work from ROM directly, potentially there is a way to modify the memory allocation for the package, but this is for someone who understands the memory allocation, etc. So basically for the programmers. But with the tool that Matthias implement in Einstein, you can actually edit the package inside and do the kind of memory shifts, memory register shifts or something like this. I don't remember. He said to me that theoretically it's possible to even modify the application and create new version of the package of that. And maybe that could work, but yeah, for me, it's a rocket science. I have no idea. Use case. Okay. Dan, I need to try that Newt's case. Maybe that package will be able to put on the ROM board, yeah?
Yeah, I haven't heard of that one, actually.
Yeah, I'm the same, so I'm gonna check it. Is that package is on UNNA?
Doesn't look like it.
All right.
Oh, but I think it's Newt case. No, no, the first S is wrong.
Grant, could you repeat the last sentence because I have like a drop from you.
Yeah, it's Newt case, not Newt's case.
Dan just put Newt's case.
Yeah,
with
I think it's this one.
Newt case, okay.
Yeah, and I use SBM's options package for freezing myself.
Okay. That's good.
You can use SBM utilities, which I think has it as well, but also their standalone options package, which also allows like multiple clipboards and stuff like that. So
yeah, SBM. EE transfer. Dan mentioned on the chat about EE transfer. That was about my question, I can guess, how to download the single package to the desktop. Thank you very much, Dan, for this. I'm gonna try it later. Guys, any of you use the Zoom, maybe daily basis? Could you advise me how to copy the chat content or maybe how to export that to the text file or something? Because I really don't want to lose our chat. And I'm worried when I stop recording, the chat will disappear.
You can literally just use the mouse and go over it and Control C and.
Yep. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Control C.
Yeah. At the bottom of the chat.
Okay.
Window there under the dot icon, there's a save chat option as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I didn't even know that one. Okay.
Save
That's good.
chat. Okay, great. So I'm gonna do the backup now on that stage because we have a lot of really nice links here, guys. So I'm gonna definitely put all that links under the video on YouTube channel when I publish the video from our session, because that session is very useful. Awesome. This is great. Okay.
But one question really out of curiosity, anyone using the Newtons still, let's say, in more sophisticated use cases? Because for me, it's really like A, hobby, and B, note-taking. And again, the cable came in super handy because usually I work a lot with Markdown. And I mean, that works just great. And I can actually use it for, well, particular parts of my work, but not extensively. But do you still use it like in your everyday work?
Yeah, I do.
Well,
all of my appointments, I schedule through it. I can link notes on particular appointments with clients. I can link the notes to their address cards so that I can log everything. So even if somebody comes back to me in 3 or 4 years' time, I can go back and say, oh yes, that's what we were doing back then. If I lost that, it would be like losing half of my brain.
all right.
It
Okay.
really does throw me, because it links information better than anything else I've got. And it's better than anything else I've seen for pulling information together. I keep notes on there. If I go to lectures and seminars, I create an address card for that. And then I link everything into that. So it just organizes everything for me. Yeah, this is why I'm really interested in seeing how to perpetuate the way Newtons work. And I'm a little bit worried that you're saying that maybe 2026 is the end, because otherwise I'm going to have to retire to a wheelchair and sleep all day. It's just, I'm not looking forward to that. Yeah, that is the thing. More than my computer, more than anything else, that's where I live.
And what are the looks you're getting?
Sorry?
What are the looks you're getting?
Yes, that does happen sometimes. I get a lot of people saying, what is that thing? The thing is, I can scribble on it, and it knows my handwriting. It I can scribble there, and it can read my handwriting pretty much as well as I can, sometimes better. So yes, people look, they ask questions about it, but then I show it to them and I say, well, this is how this works. And by the way, 4 AA batteries, and I'm good to go for another few weeks. And they just kind of, wow. Yeah, it's a curiosity. If I go into an Apple store, the younger people that work in the Apple store, they look at that and they say, what is that? And I say, that's the precursor to the iPhone. You should get one. And yeah, I don't know how I lived without it. I really don't.
I once brought Newton to an Apple store too, and nobody knew what it was.
They don't.
Yeah.
Every once in a while,
sad.
you'll find one old guy who's in there, and the young people will call him over and say, look at this, and he just says, yeah, of course. But everybody else, they just kind of think it's freaky. It's the best thing ever.
I did the same. I did the same. I went to Apple Store with my Newton. That was fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
I went into the Apple Store in Manchester one time, and there was a guy there. The guy who was working there was asking me about it, and there was another guy there with his son, and looked up and said, he said, I guess you know what this is, and he held up his eMate.
Oh, cool!
Nice.
So it was like an impromptu meeting. But yeah, it's a much underrated way of working, and it's so flexible. And I think silverware software has been one of the best things I ever discovered.
And that's the stuff which lets you link all the different, yeah, right, isn't it, right?
Yeah.
Because I used to work with it like 25 years ago, but
it's so brilliant. It is so brilliant. And the thing about it is that they wrote their software as if they were inside the heads of the Newton developers. Like, it's so compatible. It's so smooth. It just integrates really well. And like I said, I just don't know what I would do without it. But the silverware software has it. There were one or two things when I got the Newton, I thought, if only Newtons did this. And then somebody, in fact, I think it was somebody on this list, said to me, have you looked at silverware? And I've never looked back. It's just brilliant. They are just so good. Yeah. Sorry, I'm doing a commercial, and you guys don't need a commercial.
No, it's really great. Yeah, the idea behind the Newton is like a very simple device.
Yeah.
You can exchange the data inside of, between the apps, etc. That was brilliant. Even now you have the very expensive, I don't remember the name of that tablets. They have like a e-ink displays, like Remarkable.
Oh yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have one.
So guys, you see, it's a very similar, let's say, about the interface, etc. Some people need very simple interface, because simple interface do not distract that much. Like you have, millions of notifications and millions applications and
Little
colorful.
Now, Pavel, now you are doing the marketing here, because that's exactly their claim. Yeah, the no distraction device.
I wish to have option to install Newton OS on that kind of tablets. That would be awesome. That would be awesome to have a Newton with the e-ink. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. That
would be great. Yeah, to have that option. Yeah. I thought even, but I'm not that rich. I promised myself, if I ever win any lottery or something, I'm gonna hire people who will develop the e-ink screen for Newton to replace the original one.
Ooh, yeah.
To have guys, to have a original Newton with the designed, very specific, the
I'll
screen.
Be your first customer.
Yeah. I'd kickstart that.
I thought about this, but I think it's not enough of us to maybe
does
fund it.
Einstein work on Linux? Because
Yes.
Remarkable underlying is just a Linux system.
Ooh.
So technically, it's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, there was actually a
on
Remarkable. Oh, go ahead.
I have some information on that.
Okay.
I'm working with the gentleman that worked. He's the team developer for an e-ink display. He has sent me demo test units. I have Einstein installed on it. It works. An e-ink screen works and supports Einstein.
Wow.
This may be something else. Well, I thought he had already contacted the Newton Talk list and has joined. This may be a separate chat that can start up so that we can get his input, because my mind is not as accurate as his. Hugo, his first name's Hugo.
Could you start the topic on Newton Talk about this, Dom?
Yeah. And
Yes, I will.
So that I can post the famous "shut up and take my money" meme.
Yes, I want the same, because if it's
I will beat you to the top of that list.
Yeah, I remember him reaching out. I've looked into, because there are ways to get Linux or custom Android applications installed on some of the e-ink tablets. The reason that the Remarkable does run Linux, but it runs basically a custom display software. So it's not even running X Windows or something like that, which would normally be running under Linux. And part of that is because it has to optimize how it draws to the e-ink screen to be performant. So yeah, it's and unfortunately for that reason, it's just not easy to write any custom software for the Remarkable. But I do recall that guy reaching out, and I would personally also love to give my money to someone to be able to run Einstein on that.
Morgan, I
The
believe
display-
that I believe that we reached the point in technology that all that things can be done. It's a matter of money and time. So I can imagine I can imagine custom design the screen for Newton with the internal chipset, with the internal software, fixing the communication between Newton and the new type of the screen, and I think that's it. Yeah.
Morgan, touching briefly on the e-ink screen update technology. I can't remember what the word is. When there's a lagging delay, I don't think that the lagging delay in the e-ink technology will ever go away, so that there is this hesitation in the updating of the screen, whereas an LCD screen can be updated immediately and refresh immediately, and it's kind of done in the moment. There will be the lagginess of the e-ink, so that will come out in future discussions on the list, I'm sure.
Wow.
Yeah, it is interesting, and they've certainly sped it up a lot. But one of the ways, very nice. One of the ways that they sort of get around that is, instead of by sort of like copying squares, that you really are changing only what, or sorry, redrawing only what is actually changing. And some of the newer e-ink displays, what they do is they have like a manual refresh button or option, so that if something is sort of getting fuzzy or blurry because it hasn't been quite redrawing nicely enough, you can sort of clear and refresh a little bit like an Etch-a-Sketch. But yeah, they're finding fascinating ways to get around the limitation of literally moving dye closer and further away from the top of the sheet of paper.
I think
The device hardware is called the Mobi Scribe, M-O-B-I Scribe.
Mobi Scribe, okay. And that device can run Einstein?
I have mine running Einstein right now, but it needs to be recharged. I can't show you on the
Come
camera.
on, please do it now and run your camera. I want to see this. Please.
Let me see if I can
we
do
can
that.
we can wait. We can wait. I can wait.
Einstein on
talking-
e-ink, and then Pavel,
Wow.
you take care that silverware is on the ROM.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. How expensive is that device? That Mobi Scribe?
Well, it depends on whether you want color.
$200.
No, I don't want a color. The gray one, the grayscale will be fine.
Grayscale's fine.
Yeah.
It can be
Yes.
any color you want as long as it's
Black
white.
and white. Come on, it's $300. I'm gonna buy one. If that it's working, I'm gonna buy one. Refurbished one, even $100. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, there are companies out there that will let you purchase pretty much, well, not any, but many of the various e-ink tablets, and they will flash the firmware so that you can install any Android application on them, because most of them at this point are running Android. Obviously, certain things are going to perform very poorly on that, but if we were to get Einstein for Android running well, that would be much more feasible.
Yeah, kind of option. Nice. Who else used the Newton for any other tasks? Because I'm using my
Yeah.
I'm
I use
using my
mine mostly for testing software and making sure stuff works when I'm publishing updates to the Newton FAQ and the Newton glossary, because it's hard to keep all that stuff in your head. So if I've got enough machines around, I can do screenshots and I can make sure that this package works on this device, this device, this device. That's the main thing. The other thing I used it for up until a couple of years ago was running a web server. But since I changed my internet connection, I can't properly get a outbound IP address working properly. So that's why my Newton server's been down for so long. But it's, I don't use it day to day, but it's one of those fascinating things that I tinker with constantly. So at least once a week, I'm pulling one of my devices out and playing with some piece of software I've never tried before, or trying to refamiliarize myself with something I used years ago, and say, oh yeah, I forgot did this. I better update that entry in the glossary. And just, keeping the hardware around. I've got a plethora of Newton prototypes that I'm slowly documenting and photographing that don't exist anywhere else in the world, right? They're one-offs, and you don't want those things to just end up in some dustbin somewhere. At some point, I'd love to be able to donate them to a computer museum or something like that. But just, keeping those little pieces of hardware history alive for the time being is something that's really dear to my heart. I don't know if my wife would agree with that, but because there's an awful lot of boxes in the basement full of stuff that nobody understands except like me and some, random Newton engineer from the olden days. But it's sure been a fun. I don't want to call it a hobby. I guess it's more of an obsession that I've had for, oh gosh, I don't even want to say how many years, because I was actually late to the Newton. I was at Macworld Boston when it was released to the public, and my boss actually bought one of the original OMPs, and I remember playing with it and being totally fascinated. And he actually gave it to me a few years back, so I actually have that same Newton that he purchased. And it was intriguing. It was so interesting to play with something that had a user interface that really didn't exist before that time. And I was familiar with computers up until that point, but this didn't even seem like a computer, right? It seemed like something totally different. So that was kind of the initial hook. But I didn't end up buying my first Newton until like 1998. Like it was almost done with, and I picked up a MessagePad 120 that Apple Canada was clearing out all of their developer stuff, and I picked it up for like super cheap. And a guy I worked with had a 130, and we were always comparing notes and stuff back and forth and seeing what software is out there. And that's kind of when I got hooked into the Newton community and just kind of those first inklings of the Newton talk list. And after that, I kind of snowballed. And I've been collecting all this other Newton stuff that everybody else was done with for so long. Like, Morgan kind of collected the UNA site from Victor. And I collected the Newton FAQ, and I built a glossary, and, the Newton talk list fell under my lap. And then, Newton Research, Simon's site, I picked up because he was done with it. And it's kind of trying to keep as much of this information available, for people like us. And, as good as the Wayback Machine is and the Internet Archive, and there's something to be said about maintaining as much of this information, not just archiving. So I don't, that was a very roundabout answer of what I use my Newton for.
That's great, Grant. That's great. I'm gonna maybe I'm gonna maybe show on the screen one of the website that grant, especially for those of one who are new in our group. So Newton Glossary. This is the website. Grant, maybe you could say a little more about this, because I think this is the start point for all people who wants to start with Newton to get a basic knowledge. What do you think?
Yeah, it came out of, I noticed I had all this documentation, all the developer docs, and magazines and periodicals about the Newton. And I started compiling basically what was the indexes and the glossaries in the developer books. And every single one of those books had a different one. So I figured, well, let's just put it all in one place and put it online. And at one point, it was you could download a package containing it as well. And it started off with so many, just a couple hundred entries, and it's like it's crazy how much how many definitions and how many things are out there, that, and some are very obscure, but there's so many things that are connected to one another. And that's kind of why this site's super useful that way, because there's at the bottom of every entry, there's a bunch of related terms, and you can just kind of go through there and kind of browse the stuff. And hopefully most of the information is accurate. And it's one of those ongoing things where, I'm trying to add as many screenshots as I can get in, so you have we have a visual reference of what the heck I'm talking about. And trying to just coalesce all this information that's available. Still, Apple has support documents for the Newton on their site. The Internet Archive is super rich with things, and plus, keeping copies of stuff that doesn't exist anymore. Plus all, pointers to all the current developers that are out there, and all the community stuff that's still happening. Like, there's the mailing list, and there's Discords, and there's European mailing lists, and resources on social media for this stuff. Why not put it all in one place and give people some context around it, rather than just, it's just a blank link that sends them somewhere. Hopefully the glossary gives you a little context around it as well. And I'm always looking for input on that as well. The FAQ kind of languished for about 15 years. It was just kind of sitting there, and it was, Paul Guyot originally did the first draft of that one. And, I was a big proponent of supporting that and helping edit it in the early days. And eventually I figured, okay, it's time to make this more, currently useful, as opposed to say, oh, it was useful in the year 2000. Because so many links were dead in it, and some of the stuff was written really hastily, so it didn't make a lot of sense. So I've been slowly going through the FAQ and rewriting all the questions and all the answers, so they kind of make more sense in the context of how we're dealing with the Newton today. Because some of the troubleshooting tips and things like that, you can't just send somebody to a website and say, download this package, because that website disappeared 15 years ago. So I've always been about saving as much information and spreading it around as possible. And the glossary and the FAQ have been two really good venues for that, because there's no shortage of stuff you can find. I'm still finding new stuff about the Newton and trying to get it back in there. Even talking with all you folks today, I've learned 4 or 5 new things, and I've been doing this for over 20 years, 25 years. That's what's fascinating about this kind of stuff. And I hope everybody else finds it as useful as I think it should be.
I'm using all the time when I'm going back to Newton. I'm using all the time, especially the glossary, because I'm the same like you. I still, discovering new things about Newton after years. Yeah, because and refreshing the old informations, because the memory is not great.
Yeah.
I need to give you guys and gal an update. I've got two MobiScribe e-ink devices. Both of them have Einstein installed on them. The batteries are low to the point where they will not boot. I need to charge them. They are not going to be charging in time because I have a dog training client I need to go to in a half hour. I've got to go out the door and get ready now. So I have already put a ping on the list. I sent an email out to Hugo to see if he'll respond. If not, I have his email address. I'll see if I can encourage him to respond himself personally to the list and then start that conversation if necessary. I can put some effort into attempting to get a few seconds or minutes, probably a few minutes of interacting with the screen, with the Newton interface using Einstein, and then post it somewhere and then send that link to the list so that everybody can review and see what it looks like. It works. It's okay. It's a little bit ratchety is the word that I use. That's the best I can do right now, but I've got to bolt out the door here soon. Thank everybody for showing up, and thank you for tolerating my rambling.
You're welcome.
That was good.
Oh, thank you so much.
Doc, I just have a request. If you could, next time I'm gonna organize the maybe next meeting, if you could have charged both devices and show us on the screen, that would be great. What do you think?
I'll commit. I'm in. You got it.
Great. Awesome. Great. Thanks very much, Chris, also.
Actually, I also have to leave.
Yeah,
So,
no problem, guys.
Thank you
No
very
problem.
much. Very motivating and enlightening. Thank you.
So,
And
yeah.
bye-bye.
Bye.
I might head out soon also. But, like, I have some stuff I have to do, but it was nice seeing all of you again, and I had a great time.
Awesome.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
I'd like to take us from the sublime that we've had to the ridiculous. It's a simple hardware question. It's first aid. I'm in the process of packing because I've got to start traveling. And my Newton, my poor beloved Lady Newton, I've had a little accident with her. And I thought it was a cosmetic thing. It's a little tiny crack. I don't know, well, you can't see it. But it runs from here to about here. Now, I thought it was just cosmetic, but it seems to interfere with the way the battery connects, so that when I unplug, it has to restart itself. And I don't know, because I haven't got the time to take it apart and dig around in there. Is there any way of gluing that so that it's temporarily secure until I get back from traveling? Is that even possible? Or am I talking nonsense here? I just don't know well enough.
I mean, I would guess that Frank could probably answer best, but the immediate thing that jumps to my mind is the tension on the springs in the 2100. That could be causing just enough play in the case to not connect, not contact securely.
Right.
In terms of plastic repair, the best thing that I would suggest probably wouldn't be pretty. And that is, what you want to do is drill a hole at the furthest end of the crack so that it can't crack any further. And then what you would probably want to do is use an epoxy to glue the crack while applying some kind of pressure around the unit. Yeah. But of course, the tolerances on those battery trays are enough that I obviously don't drill with the batteries
Oh, no,
in
no.
there, but
I
I
mean,
would be.
I was thinking that even if I did try to glue it or use epoxy on it, I would have to take the battery out first just to take the outward pressure off of it so that it could be compressed into a proper
Yeah.
position. I just
Yeah.
don't know enough about this. I don't even know anything really about the kind of plastic that is. So
Yeah.
I'm at a loss.
Yeah, so I think like what Morgan was saying is that crack
Yeah.
is probably causing the clip where the battery sits in there to just move ever so slightly, right? It's just the
Okay.
case isn't solid anymore.
Right.
And since the two contacts for the battery are at this end of the case, if
Mhm.
even if that twists just a little bit, it's gonna
Breaks contact.
pop off that one end. So what I would suggest is carefully, if you can, pop the battery out. And if you look down into there, of course, there's no, you can't see it, but I would try prying up the battery contacts at the far end just a little bit so that they're sticking up more and there's more spring to them.
Yeah.
And then perhaps you'll have a little more leeway if the battery moves. I mean, you know, I'd go with the suggestion of trying to, you know, stop the crack from spreading anymore as well. You know, what I'd love to do is just send you an extra 2100 that I have in my pile here, because, you know, and this is just my office, and I've got 4 2100s on my desk, right? And that's like kind of my backup pile. But you know, if you're leaving soon, that's not going to work. But
And it doesn't have to
I've
be.
seen, yeah,
Oh,
I've
go
seen
ahead.
that happen. Yeah, I've seen that happen before on other devices that have a slide-in battery compartment or a separate, you know, sled or something.
Yeah.
Where it's just there's too much play in there, and even from just pushing the pack in and out, you compress those contacts at the end of the where it contacts the battery. And I think just being able to pry those up just a bit, so you've got a little more leeway there, that might help.
Well, when
But
I
definitely,
take the sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
I was just going to say, when I take the battery pack out, there is just a little bit of a play where I can feel the crack clicks a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's definitely allowing the thing to move laterally this way. I think that's what it feels like. So I think you're onto something there.
I'm trying to figure out, because when you remove the battery, you can see that the external plastic, it's a one layer of the plastic, but internal is
there's another layer.
Yeah, it's like a compartment for the battery pack. So I'm guessing how it happened that the external layer, like a external of the Newton, just cracked because of this. What happened to the internal that it happened? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, because I've never saw that kind of crack in that. I saw like a corner cracks or something like this, or maybe on the back, or maybe on the like door or something, but I never saw like in front on the bottom any crack. And I'm wonder why it's like happened. Kind of tension, weird tension. Do you have like a AA battery
a sled for replaceable batteries? Yes.
All right.
I do.
Okay. So they are usually very, they are not very like tight. So this is weird.
From what I can see, the crack is only on the external. I mean, without getting right in there.
So definitely by my judgment, that crack do not cause any disconnecting from the battery pack. Yeah.
Well, I think what it's doing is it's allowing the inner sleeve to wobble. That's what I think is happening.
Maybe, yeah. I would go that way. I would go that way that Grant suggests, to a little check with the light inside what's the state and the condition of the internal, the metal part that connect to the battery, because they have a tendency to get some residue and they losing the connection, and maybe clean up a little by kind of brush or something that can a little fix the problem, because I have a few Newtons that they are operational on the power adapter, but if I put the battery pack, they do not start, and I just discovered that the inside the metal part should be connector. They have like a green residue, and that prevent any connection, like the current not going. So I think that would be good to just clean up after 25 years. Come on.
Well, yes,
there
but
might be another option. I think the problem, the crack is not causing what you are experiencing. I would really doubt it, because below this upper, how do you call it, bezel, something like that, this part above where the crack is in, there is a pretty sturdy part, which is the top of the battery compartment, and this is relatively well fixed, so I really doubt that this will be causing this. What occasionally, well, maybe frequently happens is that the positive contact at the main board is bent towards the main board. This often results in losing connection if the battery is ever so slightly shifted. Whenever I fix a Newton, I bend the thing back. If you look into the battery compartment, you will see it at the left side. And you can just hook a screwdriver behind that and bend it ever so slightly towards the end. This very frequently fixes these things.
All right.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, that was good.
You had only just worked on this last year, if you remember, because I'd had a previous accident with it. I don't know.
In that case, it should be bent back.
It should be fine.
Yeah.
It should be fine. I'm looking for the torch that I normally carry with me, and I can't find it now. So, and I can't quite get a torch down there.
Yeah, I was just looking inside of mine, and one of the things to remember, and I'll just hold up my, my battery tray here, is that you've got one contact on the top here and one on the back here.
Right.
So if the crack, and again, I can't really show the message pad itself, but you've got the reinforcements on the front and back behind the bezel. But the bezel is what clips down at the bottom below the battery pack. Okay. So it is possible that if that crack is allowing it to stretch vertically enough, that you might not be getting enough upward pressure on the back for the pin, or for the contact. Or just not quite sitting in there securely enough. So, while Frank said definitely check and make sure that this contact is sticking out far enough, also check the one that's just up at the top. It's very small. I don't know how much you can really bend that one, but make sure that that one's making enough contact. And the other part about this, in terms of quick fixes, is if I put my battery pack back in my message pad, it does actually stick up just a little bit beyond the case here. So you might be able to just temporarily use like an electrical tape or a rubber band to hold it down more securely until you can really disassemble and troubleshoot.
Mine just disappeared all the way in. It's flush. And it's firmly flush. It doesn't wobble. It doesn't wobble this way. Doesn't feel like it wobbles this way.
Yeah, mine I can wobble, actually. Yeah, mine I definitely can compress the spring a little further. And while it appears flush, it is rounded enough.
Okay.
At least with my battery tray. I don't know. So it's also possible that that the spring is just not quite
right. Well, that gives me a short term
anymore
until I get back from traveling and I can actually do a dismantling.
Yeah, Christian, if you wanna, you can send me after you finish your trip. You can send me, and I'm happy to disassemble and check what's going on there. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
No problem.
I'll have to have a go at it at some point, but because it can't stay like this. I need to be able to just turn it on when I need it on, and
Yeah.
otherwise it's like having a brain fog. But I know for traveling, this is going to be just a tad awkward. So, well, thanks everybody. I thought, yes, I thought it was hopeless, but it sounds like there are things I can do.
Yeah, it's
You-
never hopeless with the Newton.
Yeah. When I travel with mine I'm using
Mhm.
this.
Hmm.
It's I think originally that was designed for the older Newtons, but it's
Yeah,
working really nice with the 2000. Inside you have just compartment for I think 8 batteries,
Mhm.
I have never seen that.
like that. And at the other end you have just standard like a power adapter connector. Yeah.
Right. I've never seen one of those. Huh.
Yeah, it's really cool because have a also kind of I'm not sure I'm gonna try to have a kind of clip you can clip it to the belt. Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
And
And
here I
I'm
thought I knew what was out there.
Yeah, I'm using, and it's original Apple, yeah, because there's there is a logo even, small Apple
Wow.
logo, yeah. It's a Newton battery booster pack.
Right.
This is the inside, yeah, inside kind
So
of label, yeah.
so it automatically knows not to overpower the Newton.
I mean, I'm not sure if that booster have a kind of internal, I don't know, SMD board or something to stabilize the current and everything. I need to once open that and check what is inside, because if not, it seems that 8 batteries just power up the Newton and that's it. But it's weird because Newton use usually just 4 of them, yeah.
Well, probably they just connected 4 batteries in series.
Okay, so increase the
2 types
capacity.
of 4 batteries they connected parallel, so you're getting like 6 or 6.5 volts.
Right.
Okay.
And increase double the capacity
I
of the
strongly
whole.
doubt that there's any electronics in that thing. I have
Yeah.
one myself, and I've never seen any electronics in it.
Okay.
So technically, so Frank, just a second. So technically, there is no electronic inside. We could take 8 battery, connect 4 and 4 in a parallel, and we could just use the normal plug and connect to Newton, and that will be fine.
Sure. Unfortunately, it's not a normal plug. You will have to get the correct plug, otherwise it's not going to work. It looks.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I don't recall quite the model number of this plug, but there are 10 million plugs that look exactly identical and cannot be used.
Yeah. Because I'm now I have in my head kind of device I could, for example, use the modern battery pack and take the current from the USB, because USB-C can give you more than 5 volts now. For example, I'm using external devices for the 9 volts, and I'm using as a battery, I'm using the modern USB-C battery pack, which give me the power for like 3 days of constant working. Yeah. So for Newton, my battery pack would work like 2 weeks or 4 weeks even. So I'm thinking maybe about something like this instead of using the internal batteries and battery pack. Just use that kind of power bank, yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I know there was always kind of issue with the power adapters for Newton, that not all of them are really good because they can cause kind of problems, yeah.
Yeah,
and I'm
causing
worried.
all kinds of problems unless you use the original Apple one.
Yes, that's true.
Well, part of the problem is that it can't handle over voltage, right? So by using just regular DC batteries that have a maximum of like 6.5 volts, you're not at risk of an over voltage, and it's just going to slowly drain. Whereas if you use a new modern power bank that is using USB-C, it can provide whatever voltage you need essentially. So you would still have to add back in the circuitry to ensure that there's no over voltage from it.
So the over voltage is the problem, or over current is a problem?
Well, both.
Yeah. I always remember that chart with the kind of voltage and with the current, and to be honest, I still don't understand how it's working, because for me that chart was like out of the sense. I'm not super advanced with electronic, but still I don't understand. I'm gonna try to bring it, because this is the one thing I have in my head like a years, and I cannot solve the problem. So maybe you guys could, if you have a time, obviously, if you could explain me what's the problem there. Give me a second. I'm gonna find that chart. Meanwhile, yeah, but like I said, Christian, I'm using that battery booster, wherever it is, and yeah, it's working really nice. And I'm using this as a backup battery basically for my Newton,
I'll have to keep
because
my eyes out for one.
they occasionally
Wise.
sometimes show up on eBay when I will find one, because I have just one. If I get another one, I will remember about you. Because I think this is really great. But if Frank said there is no additional electronic board there, it's easy to even make something like this. Yeah, so I'm gonna.
It shouldn't be much of a problem other than getting the correct connector. But
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they are readily available, you just must make sure to order the correct one.
The correct one, yeah.
I have few dead power adapters, original from Newton, with the good cables. So I'm happy to even cut out and use the original one. Yeah, it's not a problem. Yeah. Okay, I have it. Give me a second, guys. I'm gonna open that and share the screen. Right, so preview, share. Right. I completely don't understand that chart. What it's mean? Because we have a voltage, and we have a current here, and operating region. Oh, I don't know how to spell it properly. So, for example, from voltage from 0 to 4, the operating currents is between, let's say, I don't know, 100 milliamps till 1.3 amp, I'm guessing. But from the range of 4 till, let's say, something like a 7 here, the current must be at least at 6 volt above, let's say, 1200 milliamps, cannot be lower. What it's mean? How it's working? Why it's like that?
Well,
Can someone?
what the thing says is that the current must never get above 1.2 amps,
Okay.
regardless of the voltage you apply.
Okay, but what's that blank area here between 4 and 7 volts? Why cannot be that area included in the operating area?
Well, actually, that area is the proper operating range. Whenever you get outside this area, like where the is, how do you call it, where the grid is, then you will get in danger. This is what this thing means.
Okay, so the white area is a proper one. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
correct.
All right. I thought.
So you're saying that the label's in the wrong place?
Yes, exactly.
Ah.
So now it makes sense, because I thought that the label is on the correct area.
I never noticed that.
You know what I mean, Frank? You know what I mean,
I
Frank?
think they got that wrong.
Yeah. So I thought, do you see my cursor over the document or not,
Yeah,
guys?
I do.
Yeah. So I thought this area is correct one and the white one is incorrect. And because of this, for me was like it's not make sense. But now,
Pavel, thank you for asking.
You're right. In that case, it does not make sense. You are perfectly right.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say if we have a 4 batteries, 1.4, 1.5 volt. So we are always around 6 volt. So our goal is to do not over current like a 1.2 amp. We cannot go above, because by this will destroy the Newton potentially. Am I correct, Frank?
I don't think you are, because what they want to point out with this diagram is that normally the higher the voltage gets, the higher the current gets. And you must make sure at the right that you keep the right vertical thing vertically. Like they expect the power, I think they call it foldback something or so. You must simply make sure that regardless of the power, the current doesn't exceed 1.2 volts.
Okay.
1.2 amps.
So okay. Sorry. Yeah, please continue.
If you, so this is one of the problems, because if you put one of these cheap off-the-shelf adapters in, and they are labeled like 7 volts, actually, if they do not provide any power to anything, they could well be like 15 volts or something, although they are labeled 7. And this is exactly what this diagram says. You must stop at 7.5.
Okay.
One of the things that this is why Newton dies so fast, because many people just connect something to it which they think would work, like a 7-volt power adapter. But if it's how do you call it? If it doesn't power anything, it just sits there. I do not know the word, but it can the voltage can be much higher.
Okay, so modern power banks, they have a kind of smart devices inside. So I just measure a few times, because like I said, I try to use power bank for different very precise device actually. So the power bank with a standard USB connector provide 5 volts, and even if it's not connected to any device, still keep that it's a 5.02 volts exactly. And that power do not drop, because there is inside of the power bank, there is a controller keeping the voltage on the same level. So technically, because Newton could theoretically operate on 5 volts, correct me if I'm wrong, I could use kind of cable USB to Newton power connector, and that technically should work. The only one thing I need to take care is to do not exceed the current to 1.2 amp. Am I correct?
I think you are, yeah.
All right. I'm gonna do the tests.
Yeah, you would want to put some other test on there that would draw 1.2 amps to ensure that when it is drawing 1.2 amps, that the smart controller in the battery bank doesn't say, oh, now I have 1.2 amp draw, so I'm going to change my voltage.
No. Because you have two types of the power banks. If you have standard USB, they provide just 5 volts, nothing more. If you have USB-C, then they switching to the different volts, like a 9 and 12 and I think 19 or something. So let's say I'm gonna use the standard, because by this chart, Newton technically should work with the 5 volts that the standard USB power banks provide, and they never will go up. Because like I said, I measure like without any device connected, I measure the voltage is all the time the same. So we don't have that problem that Frank mentioned, that the power adapters without any device connected, they have like a higher voltage and they expecting kind of device, and then they drop the voltage. So the voltage is not the issue. In this case, I'm guessing the only issue can be that the power bank somehow can deliver more current that we should apply on Newton. So I'm gonna sacrifice
I
Newton.
don't think this will be an issue too either, because if you connect batteries, the power that is drawn depends on the device that's being powered. And the Newton is not going to draw more than 1.2 amps. I really doubt it. I've never seen a Newton that draw even 1 amp or so. It's like 200, 300 milliamps. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to use alkaline.
Batteries.
So this is not going to be your problem. But if you charge a battery and you have like a charger that can deliver 5 amps or more, you must make sure that it's not going to do this.
Right. Okay, so technically, if I make a cable, like I said, USB to the power connector, technically the power bank with the 5 volt should work, like just like that.
Theoretically, yes, but I'm very, very careful with power banks. These things very often do not match their specification.
I know that. I know that this is
reviewed a lot of power banks at Amazon, and some of them are so incredibly poor that you could cry.
yeah.
And there are
what I will do.
USB.
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. There are some normal USB fast charging banks as well. So like, yeah, in addition to what Frank's saying about the poor quality, like, yeah.
No. I just bought a proper one with the kind of, good reviews, etc., with a really good cells inside, not like a fake one. Yeah, like a 30,000 milliamps capacity or something in like a very tiny square. Yeah. No.
Fast charging power bank is something you should probably not use, because
Definitely not.
If they misunderstand anything and they give out 12 volts, will be the end of your Newton.
Yes. No. I have one of the power bank that definitely work only with 5 volts and give nothing more. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure like that. So, but anyway, I have that USB to USB kind of device that have a small display and show me the current and the voltage actually going through the USB. So maybe that will be helpful to control what's going on when I connect Newton. Yeah, and obviously, and Newton, when Newton will survive, I will be able to read the values that they are delivered by the power bank. So maybe Christian, maybe that would be your future solution, like a power bank on the short cable, and you can work like 5 weeks on this power bank. Yeah.
I have to admit, I tend to the side of caution with my Newton.
Yeah. I'm gonna test
because
it.
I know the electrical things. There's a difference between what they say they can do and say they will do, and then if they've not been designed properly or they've not been executed properly, they vary too much, and you only need one mistake,
The battery pack would be a much safer option. I agree. And I always like that thing, because you get AA batteries everywhere, regardless where you are. You get it at every gas station or supermarket or wherever you are. I don't think there's any town on this planet where you're not going to get them.
Yeah. I mean, the batteries, the power bank made from batteries is really cool. Yeah.
You needn't put alkaline batteries in there. You can just put the battery rechargeable batteries that have 1.5 volts. It's a nickel something.
Nickel cadmium.
Christian, I have here I need to switch off the blur. Give me a sec. I have here that kind of unit with a really poor screen, like you see a lot of scratches.
Okay.
And the other side is even open. So this is my Frankenstein Newton.
Yes.
I'm testing on it my my ROM boards. I'm testing different type of powering actually now.
Oh.
So yeah, this one and it survived all that
So
things.
far.
Yeah.
So
far, yeah. So
yes.
so I'm gonna test it with with the power bank, because Frank, if we are right, that can be kind of solution.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, thank you all very much for giving me some ideas, because the alternative would be leaving it home for 3 weeks, and 3 weeks without a Newton is like 3 weeks without eating, sleeping, and drinking water. I've done that once, and I don't want to do it again. So thank you all very much.
It's hard to go back to 2 brain lobes when you have 3.
It's more like 4. It really is. The amount of things that I found, just, the first year or so, I found that there were things that were a little frustrating. And then I realized, for example, if I create a name card for a project, like if I'm when I was giving a week seminar and I wanted to organize all of my notes around that seminar, just created a name card for that seminar, linked everything together. And now I suddenly discovered I could find everything, absolutely everything. And then because I also found the facilities for subfolders. I could create a folder and then create subfolders to subdivide so I could have the different days. And all of a sudden, that thing does stuff that I can't easily do anywhere else because it links dates, it links people, it links the invitations, just everything all came together on it. And I mean, just why don't we do that with our computers? So, after Einstein, I want to see an operating system for a computer based on the Newton operating system. Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. I need to be going pretty soon too. So I'll be looking forward to watching this back and seeing what you guys do after I go. Thank you, everybody. Pavel, thank you for putting this together. I've missed all of this.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you wanna, guys, yeah, I can schedule for the next month, some point. Yeah. Do you think that
Yes, please.
time? Do you think that time I scheduled this one is okay, or would be better to do any other time? Please remember that we are around the world. Yeah.
We're worldwide.
Yeah. For me, it's fine because in UK we have what that was 5 p.m. Am I correct, Christian? Yeah.
Well, fine too, but there will be always some people who are pretty much asleep.
Yeah, I know.
We will always probably have to record it anyway. So
yeah.
It's
So
not the same as being there live, but
what time that was in United States in your areas, guys? Morgan?
East Coast, it's noon, so it was perfect.
All right. Okay. Grant,
can't
you're
complain.
the same?
It's 10 a.m. here, so that's fine with me.
All right. Okay. So maybe that time will be fine. So I'm gonna try to find one
Not for me.
Saturday next. Great. Awesome. So I'm gonna try to find one Saturday next month, and we could do something. Maybe I'm gonna.
I'm gonna bow out, guys.
Yeah,
nice
I think
to see
most
everything.
of us. I think most of us will
Yes.
finish. Yeah.
Live long and prosper.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Stay green. Stay green.
And stay green, yes.
Yeah.
Now, of all people, why didn't Spock come up with that? And the Vulcans, they've got green blood, for crying out loud.
That's good. All right. Okay. So thanks very much, guys. That was really nice to see you after that period of time, and I hope you're doing well. So yeah, see you next time.
All right.
Cool.
Yes, thank you
Thank
again,
you.
everyone.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
have a nice day.